Realizing he stands no chance against the now famous Wyvern Slayer, he has no choice but to accept Eugene's terms. As part of the negotiations, Eugene's first demand is for certificates and official letters recognizing him as the new lord of several villages. With the deal sealed, he officially secures his lordship, expanding his power base and solidifying his noble status. The second part of the negotiation concerned compensation for the damages. Reparations regarding Oleg, as well as 80% of the mana crystals and other loot obtained from the ambush. As a final power play, he also claims a portion of the mercenaries that were guarding the Baron's own castle. Not just land and money, but manpower too. Riding away with their new forces and riches, Eugene's subordinate, Ain, marvels at his master's brilliant strategies in both combat and politics. Eugene then turns his attention to a young man named Ain Luke, one of the former slave soldiers he acquired from Oleg. Startled by the sudden address from his formidable new master, the young man nervously confirms his name. When asked about his past, he reveals that he was a knight's disciple for over 3 years before his capture. Seeing his potential, Eugene offers him a formal position, tasking him with maintaining the armor and the barn. Overcome with gratitude at the offer of a steady wage, a tearful Luke accepts and pledges his service, calling him master. For a former slave, this is a life-changing opportunity. Feeling a newfound sense of security, he dares to ask his new master a question that has been bothering him. He hesitantly asks why he was chosen to be brought along after the battle against the Wyverns. To this, Eugene explains that his valuable information about the Wyverns' traits was the key to their successful strategy. Luke admits that he initially suspected his new master was leading them into a trap when Oleg's knights first appeared. Eugene acknowledges this, but points out that the young man, showing his true character, only ever drew his sword against the monsters, not against his own men. This says a lot about the young man's character. Recognizing his loyalty and potential, Eugene formally invites him to follow him from now on. He even promises to equip him with proper armor and weapons, preparing him for the many battles that lie ahead. With renewed purpose, Luke declares that he will serve his master faithfully until the day he dies. The other new recruits watch in awe, realizing they are now serving a legendary knight who truly provides for his followers. A clear message to all the new recruits. However, their journey is interrupted when a scout urgently rides back to deliver a report. He informs them that Roven Village, one of Eugene's new territories, is currently being overrun by a gang of bandits. Without a moment's hesitation, Eugene rallies his forces, commanding them to prepare for battle and protect his people. Fired up by their lord's command, the mercenaries charge forward, eager to prove their worth and protect their new home. Sir Galfredick observes their passionate loyalty with a grin, asking how he's enjoying his newfound status as a lord. Eugene, however, is silently fuming, annoyed that the vampire Del Mondo, whom he tasked with guarding the village, has clearly abandoned his post. Looks like someone is in big trouble. Pushing his irritation aside, he leads his company at a full gallop toward the occupied village. Later, Eugene and his retinue arrive at the prosperous port city of Mofair, where they are greeted at the gates. Their host, a wealthy merchant, insists they stay at his personal estate rather than a common inn, explaining that the sudden arrival of a 40-man military force requires a delicate touch to avoid alarming the city. During a lavish welcoming banquet, Eugene assures his host that he has no intention of causing trouble in Mofair. The host, however, continues his passive-aggressive welcome, noting that while the title Wyvern Slayer is admirable, it is also quite threatening. Introducing himself as Mofair's merchant guildmaster Gardej, he then points out the potential issue of having former bandits among Eugene's mercenaries. He smugly warns that the locals harbor a deep resentment for bandits, hinting that their presence could easily lead to violence. A thinly veiled threat if there ever was one. Eugene's men overhear the insult and begin to grumble, annoyed at his audacity. But Eugene smoothly diffuses the tension, promising the guildmaster that he will personally ensure no such trouble occurs. Gardej, however, continues his condescending hospitality, boasting that his home is the finest in the city. He ends his welcome with another veiled threat, stating he'll make sure Eugene's men don't get into any trouble. At the constant provocations, Partik finally snaps, but Raban quickly restrains him to prevent a diplomatic incident. Eugene calmly cuts through the guildmaster's games, revealing he knows Gardej was asked to serve him by the Palin Trading Company. He then drops a bombshell, informing the stunned man that he is now the official lord of 3 villages, Faranon, Minthan, and Ronan. A bewildered Gardesh stammers, as Eugene asks if that isn't the reason the branch manager introduced them. The guildmaster is left reeling, as Eugene explains that Baron Beogalon himself issued certificates confirming his new lordship. The revelation that this unknown knight is now a powerful lord of multiple large villages renders him utterly speechless. And just like that, the tables have turned. Gardesh fumes internally, realizing the Palin Trading Company knew of this lucrative opportunity and got their foot in the door first. Immediately shifting his attitude, a sycophantic Gardesh offers a deep, apologetic bow for his earlier rudeness, a complete 180 in his demeanor. Eugene coolly accepts the apology, thinking to himself that this is how people always react to a shift in power. Mistaking his stoicism for a power play, Gardesh assumes the new lord is demanding to be treated according to his station. Desperate to curry favor, he offers a few talented individuals from his modern merchant guild. With a casual, "That would be nice," Eugene accepts, and the overjoyed guildmaster calls for a grand feast to celebrate. As the party begins, Eugene remarks on the generosity of merchants, while Galfridic encourages the soldiers to drink heartily. Sir Galfridic then stands to give a toast, praising the troops for their unwavering courage during the Wyvern subjugation. He commends their absolute trust in their lord's commands, which allowed them to emerge victorious without a single casualty. A remarkable feat in such a dangerous battle. With a booming voice, he raises his mug high, cheering for future victories under the brilliant command of Lord Eugene. The entire hall erupts with thunderous applause and cheers as the men shout their loyalty and praise for their new lord. Amid the celebration, the water spirit Mirian enthusiastically buzzes around a quiet Eugene, cheering for the glorious rise of the future Demon King. Later that night, as the estate settles, Eugene privately expresses his disappointment that no scarlet mana crystals were found among the loot. Mirian flies in through the window, defensively insisting she checked every corpse thoroughly but found nothing. After that, Eugene simply pats the tired water spirit on the head, telling her to go to sleep and rest. But just as he finds a moment of peace, a servant interrupts, announcing a late-night visitor. His refusal is cut short when the servant relays the visitor's secret password, cold and red blood of Noferus. His eyes glowing with rage, Eugene instantly assumes it's Del Mondo, furious that the vampire had abandoned his post. Barely containing his anger, he grits his teeth and orders the servant to allow the guest inside as the grand doors swing open. A terrified Del Mondo is the first to step through the door, trembling with fear before his powerful vampire superior. Emerging from the shadows, the visitor greets Eugene with an unexpected title, Second Cousin. Well, this is unexpected. Terrified, Del Mondo watches the visitor, remarking that it has been a long time since they last met. As Eugene and his powerful second cousin head inside for a private meeting, a butler dismisses awaiting Luke. The two vampires enter a lavish room, closing the golden doors behind them for their private discussion. Inside, a terrified Del Mondo prostrates himself, formally greeting the Great Origin while clearly intimidated by the presence of his powerful relative. Our guy looms over him, questioning his failure to protect the assigned villages, for which Del Mondo can only offer his injuries as an excuse. Shaking with fear, he takes full responsibility for his failure and begs his superior for punishment, a display of absolute desperation. Observing the groveling vampire, Eugene coldly assesses his potential, asking what skills he possesses beyond basic combat or literacy. Eager to prove his worth, Del Mondo lists his many talents, combat prowess, literacy, arithmetic, and fluency in 4 languages. He then adds an impressive detail to his resume, revealing that, back when he was human, he was in charge of personnel and administration for the Roman Empire. Now that's a very useful background to have. Seeing an opportunity, our guy offers him a chance at redemption, saying he'll be forgiven if he can properly complete a task. Overjoyed at the chance, Del Mondo enthusiastically agrees and eagerly asks what his new mission will be. Later, in a meeting with Merchant Guildmaster Gardesh, Eugene executes his plan, presenting a well-dressed Del Mondo as his cousin who will manage his new estates. Playing his part perfectly, Del Mondo introduces himself with a dignified tone that immediately impresses the guildmaster. Gardesh laughs heartily, remarking that he'd expect nothing less than such a refined relative from someone like Sir Eugene. While the guildmaster is charmed, Del Mondo is secretly terrified, yet he continues his act by humbly comparing Sir Eugene's greatness to his own insignificance. The act is a success, as Gardehi privately notes that Eugene has a good eye for people and feels confident leaving the villages in such capable hands. However, he schemes to himself, regretting that he didn't secure a partnership sooner while contemplating a new way to win Eugene's favor. And he gets straight to business, asking if there are any plans to expand the newly acquired estate. Gardesh specifically mentions Mitnader, a mountain on the border of the territory, but our guy states his intention is to return to Marin. In a bid to entice him, Gardesh reveals a crucial piece of information. The mountain contains valuable silver mines, immediately piquing Eugene's interest. And that's the keyword he was waiting for. With his plans suddenly shifting, he leans forward with newfound intensity and demands that the guildmaster tell him everything. Later, the mage Surinoir proudly presents a new banner and signet ring she designed for Eugene's new house. Miriam is highly impressed by the professional quality of the artwork, which features a dragon sigil instead of the more common bat. Surinoir explains her choice, stating that while common vampires are associated with bats, powerful origins like Eugene are more akin to dragons. A fitting symbol for someone of his stature. He offers a simple but effective compliment, calling her an artisan, which is more than enough to fluster the young mage. Beaming with delight, she thinks to herself that becoming his official mage might be a very good idea after all. However, her practical side takes over, and she reminds herself not to be swayed by simple praise, but to secure her share of the loot. She's clearly focused on the reward. So, she asks Eugene if she has fulfilled her side of their bargain, implicitly asking for the promised reward. He nonchalantly agrees, telling her to take an appropriate amount of the spoils, much to her delight. With business concluded, our guy shifts topics, inquiring if she has any knowledge of alchemy. She confirms that it's a standard part of a mage's education, especially for handling minerals used in creating chimeras. He connects this to Gardeja's revelation, informing her that he may soon acquire a silver mine and will need someone to smelt the ore. The moment she hears the words silver mine, she becomes incredibly animated, declaring she will set up a research lab immediately upon their return to Marin. Her whole demeanor changes in an instant, and passionately insists that mages are superior to dwarves at isolating silver and implores him to entrust the task to her. Miriam cheekily teases the money-obsessed mage, pointing out how passionate she's suddenly become about profit. Surinoir bristles at the jab, retorting that she needs money for her research and is nothing like the capitalistic spirits beside her. Ignoring the spirit, she continues her enthusiastic pitch to Eugene, guaranteeing he won't regret hiring her. Her passion reaching a fever pitch, she promises to give him her all, boasting that her faction's chimera-focused silver techniques are the best. He calmly agrees to her proposal, dryly noting he doesn't need her everything, a response she takes as an absolute win. Eugene then gives her orders. She is to return to Marin alone, with a contingent of soldiers to guard their acquired loot. Once the excited mage is gone, he turns to Miriam and declares their new destination, the silver mines of Matnader. A flashback to Gardeja's explanation reveals the mountain once belonged to Sir Vemos of the powerful House Archibald, who died several years ago. Eugene ponders the central mystery. Why would a powerful house like Archibald simply abandon such a valuable resource? It's a very good question. Gardeja admits he doesn't know for sure, theorizing they simply lacked the resources to manage the mines at the time. He elaborates on the political chaos, explaining that, with Marquis Archibald deposed, the direct heirs are too busy with succession battles to care. This power vacuum allowed opportunistic bandits to seize the mines and style themselves as local lords. Gardeja summarizes the situation. The entire region is a neglected mess, much to the detriment of local merchants and civilians. But, as the guildmaster notes, Eugene's timely arrival has changed everything. Thanks to his intervention, peace has returned to the villages, and the people now hail him as their new lord. As Eugene's party rides into the village to a hero's welcome, Gardeja's voice confirms that, with a noble's certificate, he can rightfully claim the mines. The grateful villagers cheer for their new lord, overjoyed that peace has finally been brought to their lands. A welcome change from their previous predicament. Gardeja also proposes a partnership, pledging to fund the mine's development in return for ongoing business. The new dragon banner designed by Surinoir now flies over the village, symbolizing Eugene's authority in the region. Eugene observes the banners with satisfaction, noting that his new subordinate, Del Mondo, has already been hard at work establishing his rule. As they ride through the cheering crowds, Byrne comments on the novelty of being welcomed as heroes instead of invaders. Nearby, Sir Galfredic and the mercenaries discuss the sudden change in plans, acknowledging that a mine is a massive asset for a new lord. Byrne excitedly calculates the potential wealth their new lord will gain, recognizing the strategic importance of this mission. One of the former bandits almost lets slip his past connection to the mines, but Byrne quickly silences him. The flustered ex-bandit quickly professes his loyalty, declaring he now has no ambition but to fight for Sir Eugene. Sir Galfredic smirks, telling the man that even if he had succeeded in taking the mine, he never would have been able to keep it, and explains the harsh reality. The direct lineage of House Archibald would have crushed any low-born usurper who tried to claim their property. Then concludes that true lordship isn't self-proclaimed. It requires power, fame, military might, and social status. In other words, you have to earn it. As his men ponder what it takes to be a true lord, they realize their new master possesses all of those qualities in spades. Riding alongside, Sir Galfredic muses that Eugene must have been a truly prominent figure before losing his memories. He grins, anticipating that the full truth of his master's past, once revealed, will be a massive shock to them all. Meanwhile, Eugene reflects on this, recalling the mysterious, non-hostile figures he glimpsed in his fragmented memories. He speculates they could be other vampires or even origins, and realizes he must prepare for the inevitable conflict with the paladins and the church. Approaching Matinator, he solidifies his strategy to accumulate not just military power, but political influence and money as well. With grim determination, he dispatches his scouts, vowing not to be caught off guard and murdered again. A grim reminder of what he's already been through, and declares his immediate goal to raid the bandits, secure his rights to the mines, and gain the power necessary to reclaim his lost memories. On a rainy night at their camp near Matinator, one of Eugene's mercenaries calls out for another ale, breaking the quiet. But his comrade quickly reminds him that they're on standby and shouldn't be drinking in case they are dispatched. Scoffing at the warning, the mercenary argues that with the sun gone and the sky crying, there's no chance of them seeing any action. However, his comrade shuts down the request, telling the man he can have more ale only if he gets permission from Eugene first. Meanwhile, Eugene and Sir Galfredic worry about their missing scout Anton, fearing he may have been captured or even killed. Inside the main tent, Galfredic discusses the mission with his lieutenant in Eugene's presence, identifying their target as the bandit group known as Balond and the Hounds. His lieutenant, Byrne, explains that the bandit leader, Balond, is a treacherous former mercenary captain skilled at setting traps in the silver mines. Having heard enough, Eugene declares they've waited long enough and prepares to find his missing subordinate himself. As Byrne cautions him about the rain and traps, our guy simply asks about the character of the missing scout. This says a lot about his priorities. And he recalls that the man, a former bandit himself, was not wretched and had been trying hard to prove his loyalty. Hearing this, Eugene decides he and Galfredic will go alone, instructing the rest of his forces to stand by and await his signal, a bold and risky plan. While Byrne starts to protest the risky plan, the mercenary captain Partik quickly accepts the order on behalf of the men. So Byrne also accepts the order, though he does so with some confusion. Before leaving, Eugene gives his final orders to improve the camp's defenses, reminding his followers that the weak are forgotten after death. However, he makes a solemn promise to his men that he will always remember his own, even if they are weak, and will avenge them if they fall. A powerful vow that sets him apart. Later, deep inside the mine, Eugene calms an overzealous Galfredic, reminding him not to cut off their captive's tongue so he can still answer questions. Galfredic then interrogates the terrified bandit, demanding to know if they've seen a dark-haired man with a scar on his face. With tears streaming down his face, the bandit confirms that they killed the man he's describing. So their worst fears were realized. Later, the bandits are seen casually discussing their hirer, trying to remember that his name was Andre. They debate their leader's plan, with some preferring to just take the silver mines for themselves instead of getting knighted by their noble employer. However, their leader, Balond, silences the dissent, telling his men to focus on the bigger picture he has planned. Just then, they hear a strange noise and turn on the lights. They see a monster and run into the mine to save themselves. Panic erupts as they mistake the attack for monsters, realizing their outer defenses are being slaughtered. The last man at the gate is dragged into the darkness, screaming his leader's name as the others watch in horror. Peering out into the chaos, a bandit trembles, wondering if they are being attacked by a powerful ogre. Balond shouts back that there are no ogres in the mountain and dismisses his men's pleas to flee into the storm. Before anyone can react, the heavy wooden gate to their hideout is blown off its hinges by an immense force. A brutal display of power. The blast sends men and debris flying, spreading chaos and terror among the remaining bandits. Eugene and Galfredik emerge from the smoke, with Galfredik calmly remarking on how stuffy the mine feels. The bandits are stunned to see that their attackers are not monsters, but just two men who single-handedly crushed their defenses. The reality is far more terrifying than any monster. Recovering from his shock, Balond furiously rallies his men, screaming at them to get the intruders. As the horde charges forward, Galfredik looks on with a calm, predatory gaze. At Eugene's command, the water spirit Mirian unleashes her power, creating a swirling vortex of mist. The magic instantly blankets the area in a thick fog, blinding the charging bandits and causing them to cry out in confusion. When Galfredik asks about taking prisoners, a furious Eugene declares they will take none, as they killed his mercenary. He made a promise, and he intends to keep it. Just then, Galfredik's vampiric eyes glow with anticipation as he readily agrees to carry out his master's order for annihilation. Embracing the darkness, he reflects that, as a human, he never would have imagined being able to fight like this, and he unleashes a flurry of attacks, effortlessly slaughtering the disoriented bandits in the darkness. And just like that, the slaughter begins. He then exults in his newfound power, realizing he can now freely use all the vampire abilities that make him feel truly alive. He thinks back to the enhanced vampiric senses he once had to suppress as a human. Now, those same senses reveal everything, showing him the location of every cowering bandit in the darkness. With inhuman precision, he finds and executes one hiding behind a wooden support beam. The slaughter continues as he tears through the remaining bandits with brutal efficiency. His eyes gleam in the darkness, pinpointing his next target in the chaotic melee. With a feral grin, he easily deflects a desperate attack from a terrified bandit, and mockingly tells the man he can see it all, before delivering a fatal blow with his clawed hand. The last of the men fall, all except Balond, their desperate cries for help echoing through the blood-soaked mine. Their leader, Balond, stumbles through the darkness, screaming a curse at Andre, the man who hired him. A crucial mistake, revealing the name of his employer. His curses turn to a scream of pure terror as a shadowy, blood-red claw descends upon him. And with a single, powerful blow, our guy slams him into the ground, knocking him unconscious. When Galfredik asks if he plans to kill him, Eugene explains that he intends to keep their leader alive for questioning, and reveals that just before being captured, the bandit leader said something very interesting. Later, in his office, the Mofair merchant guildmaster, Gardej, reacts with shock to Eugene's report. However, our guy calmly verifies the claim, telling the guildmaster he can question the captive whenever he wishes. The guildmaster's mind races with opportunity, realizing this could allow our protagonist to seize not just the mines, but control of the entire peninsula. He then explains the political situation. Sir Andre is the nephew of Marquis Archibald, whom he betrayed, leading to the Marquis' downfall. Crucially, he reveals that Sir Andre now serves Sir Gabriel, the Marquis' eldest son, who is embroiled in a fierce succession battle. Eugene astutely deduces that Sir Andre must have been acting on Sir Gabriel's orders, earning the guildmaster's praise. He quickly puts the pieces together. He then proposes an alliance, promising to back Eugene if he chooses to confront the nobles responsible. When our guy questions his motives, the guildmaster reminds him that his actions have already benefited the city by securing their trade routes, and passionately declares that all of Mofair's powerful figures are watching, and that this is Eugene's chance to establish his authority. Considering the offer, our guy listens as he offers to mobilize soldiers through the mercenary guild. The guildmaster thinks to himself that for the stability of the peninsula, he cannot afford to lose an ambitious knight like him. His mind made up, our guy looks at him and asks how soon the preparations can begin. He's not just reacting anymore, he's going on the offensive. Thrilled, the guildmaster declares they can start immediately, promising the full and unconditional support of Mofair. To this, our guy accepts, formally giving him the order to gather the soldiers for their campaign. Pleased with the outcome, Gardej praises the wise decision, ready to help establish a new authority in the land. As Eugene's growing forces march into the city, onlookers can't help but question if his foreign mercenaries and knights will truly remain loyal. However, an ally explains that the mercenaries are drawn by his power and the promise of wealth from the silver mines, while the knights value his lack of traditional lordly responsibilities. In fact, the Knights of Karlsbabagen are inspired, feeling it's a great honor to fight alongside the legendary Wyvern Slayers for the safety of their land. It is also noted that half the knights joined because serving a lord without traditional ties means any land they earn as a reward cannot be taken away. Meanwhile, merchant guildmaster Gardej and his associate watch the army march, viewing their massive investment as a mere pittance for the potential rewards. Gardej smugly tells his subordinate that while the Wyvern Slayers may be a formidable warrior, he's completely blind when it comes to politics and running an estate. He plots to handle all the money while the knight handles the fighting, confident in his ability to manipulate the entire situation. He sees this as a purely financial opportunity, nothing more. His scheming is cut short, however, when a messenger announces that Sir Eugene's manager is waiting for him in the library. But he dismisses the manager as young and emotional, confident he can crush the man in a war of material gain using his own superior experience. A fatal underestimation of his opponent. Inside the library, however, he is taken aback when the manager, Del Mondo, bluntly states that his lord needs a castle. Del Mondo then presents a set of detailed plans, informing the stunned guildmaster that as the new owner of a village and 6 towns, Sir Eugene now requires a proper castle. Shocked into silence, Gardej begins to read the meticulously prepared documents. He is floored by the sheer level of detail, noting that the plans seem to be the work of someone with over 30 years of experience. The guildmaster is clearly out of his depth here, and quickly realizes that following these plans will be incredibly costly, and he nervously wonders how he can possibly turn down such a request. Sensing his hesitation, Del Mondo casually states that if the city of Mofair can't handle the silver, they can always take their business elsewhere. And as he gets up to leave, mentioning Marin as a viable alternative, a panicked Gardej grabs his hand, desperately telling him to wait. And just like that, the tables have turned. His confident act shattered. He laughs nervously, trying to smooth things over by reminding Del Mondo that he already helped with reinforcements and that they should discuss the matter further. But Del Mondo cryptically reveals that he has another specialty he hasn't yet mentioned, one he hasn't needed since becoming a vampire. He then declares his true skill is the art of being cunning, honed by decades of experience as an administrator navigating both human and vampire societies, which allows him to see right through the guildmaster's schemes. Leaning in, he challenges the terrified guildmaster, asking him just how far he thinks Sir Eugene plans to go beyond simply being a lord. After that, he scolds him for his lack of insight, preparing to completely shatter his limited perspective. A sweating Gardej stammers as Del Mondo explains that Eugene aims to become a marquis, or perhaps even a great lord of the empire. After that, he just smiles, revealing that his own father was a lord in the empire, and that a great origin like Eugene should aim much higher. With a menacing grin, he suggests a much grander ambition, becoming a king. An ambition far beyond anything the merchant could have imagined. Meanwhile, out in the field, Eugene is presented with a group of captured bandits by his overeager new knights. One of them proudly reports that they took the bandits' base instantly, claiming the cowards surrendered the moment they arrived. The other even boasts that they subdued the bandits without drawing their swords, as the enemy formation broke upon their arrival. Expecting praise, the knights ask if they aren't dependable, only to be met with a confused look from their new leader. But just then, the captured bandits groveled before Eugene, begging him not to eat them and offering themselves as his slaves. A bewildered Eugene asks why they think he would eat them, and a bandit explains they heard a rumor in a nearby pub that he eats bandits alive. That certainly explains their bizarre reaction. The terrified men confess they've been hiding in the woods ever since hearing about him, and they plead for mercy. The knights look on in disbelief, finally realizing the bandits were terrified of Sir Eugene, not of them. The disappointing truth dawns on them. Their supposed victory was not their own accomplishment. A harsh blow to their pride, to be sure. Seeing their deflation, Miriam reminds Eugene that he's supposed to be nice and compliment his men. Taking her advice, he offers some praise, telling the knights their courage is what caused the surrender, which instantly boosts their morale. The knights laugh, readily agreeing that it was a combination of their leader's fame and their own boldness. But then Eugene's expression darkens as he reminds them that he is the one who gives the orders, warning that if they act alone again, they will be fighting him instead. The knights are shocked into silence by the thinly veiled threat, especially when he ominously adds that such a confrontation might lead to accidents. A stark and terrifying reminder of who is in charge. Internally, he fumes, thinking how their disobedience makes him want to kill his own men. He holds back, however, knowing he needs these forces to intimidate powerful nobles like Marquis Archibald, as one of his knights soberly acknowledges the command. With discipline restored, our guy orders his troops to keep moving towards the marquisate. As they ride, some of the knights grumble about not getting paid for this expedition, but ultimately agree to trust the Wyvern Slayer. Soon, the party arrives at a vista overlooking the vast estate of Marquis Archibald. A guide explains that half of the entire Karlsbegangen Peninsula is the Archibald estate, a family with a long history and many vassals. Eugene compliments the knowledgeable guide recommended by Gardej, and the man humbly accepts the praise. The guide then informs him that their final destination, Sir Gabriel's estate, is 3 days away, and that they must first pass through the lands of Lady Asendra, the Marquise's eldest daughter, and explains that, according to custom, Asendra Antigo Archibald is the legitimate successor to the house. However, due to the Marquis losing his position, her brother, Sir Gabriel, currently wields more actual power. Eugene muses to himself that in this world, bloodline and status are the ultimate rulers, and concludes that simply using the captured bandit leader, Balond, will not be enough to convict the entire marquisate. In other words, he needs more than just a confession to take down a powerful noble house. He considers the harsh reality of this world, where common soldiers are simply enslaved on the battlefield. Meanwhile, nobles and knights can just be ransomed and freed if they have enough money. Having assessed the political landscape, our protagonist makes a decision. He announces his plan to meet Lady Asendra and orders an emissary to be sent ahead. Inside her grand estate, Lady Asendra asks who has come to see her. Her attendant, Sir Gecko, reports that a foreign knight named Jan Eugene, who has seized 2 villages and the Nader silver mines, requests an audience. Asendra recalls hearing about him from the Templars, particularly the rumor that he successfully raided the ancient ruins in Beogalan territory. Dismissing the Wyvern story as a baseless rumor, she orders her attendant to let the man in. Worried, he cautions his lady, suggesting this knight might be acting under her brother Gabriel's orders. The emissary had reported that Eugene has about 100 men under his command. Furthermore, the force includes 7 to 10 knights, a significant number. Unfazed, she simply smiles and gives her command, then tell him to come in alone. A bold, and perhaps reckless, move. As she steps out of her bath, she tells a concerned Sir Gecko that she's simply curious to see what kind of person this man is, and declares that if she doesn't like him, she'll simply tell him to fuck off. When her attendant lectures her about safety, she playfully asks why he's so concerned. However, she confidently dismisses his worries, reminding him that the legitimate blood of Archibald can handle a few knights, and, more importantly, that she has him to protect her. She then reveals her skeptical nature, stating that she needs to see things with her own eyes to believe them. As Eugene's lone horseman approaches the massive gates, she voices her desire to see if he's truly as great as people claim. She wants to determine for herself how much of the rumors are true and how much is false.